Sports bettors, you need to download Sharps, the better social network. With Sharps mobile app, you can tailor your friends' bets with one click. See a bet you like? Just click the whale tail icon and boom, it will open in your corresponding sportsbook. Sharps securely connects to major sportsbooks like FanDuel, MGM, Caesars, and more, so you can not only track your bets, but share your bets in creative ways. So gather the degens, download Sharps for free, and join our fast-growing sports betting community.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Ball and Breakfast Podcast with Wayne. I'm Patrick. If you're with us to start here on YouTube, subscribe. After you're done, like. You can also comment on anything that we cover here. Check out our new sponsors. We got the Sharps app. If you're into sports betting, there's now a social media site where you can kind of show off your bets, talk to people in the community. Really great app. Wayne's already on it and, putting out his vibes and stuff. So, go find him on there. At the Sharps app as well. Tight Nutrition's been with us for a while, 10% off all workout products. Give those a look too. Use our promo code for that discount. And it's all good. So with tonight's show, we are going to do some baseball. It's been a while since the playoffs and, the conclusion of the World Series, but we are in the thick of the free agency period right now. Some names are coming off the board already. Some trades have taken place, obviously, but what we're going to do is we're going to cover the top 5 free agents on the board, according to MLB trade rumors. And then we will go into a full White Sox deep dive, as we are Chicago White Sox fans, and we have a lot of ideas about, what they're going to be prioritizing, here for 2024, looking at their budget, their roster, their current timeline and needs. So we're going to go through the current roster. We're going to go through what free agency might look like for them and make some picks, talk through some guys, and, hopefully you enjoy. Feel free to comment again on anything that you've heard. And again, we just appreciate the support. So without further ado, we'll go into the top 5 free agents. Number 1 on the board is obviously Shohei Ohtani. So Wayne, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Man, Shohei, he's got to go somewhere else, right? I think that's just the general consensus. He's just wasting all that, two going to be 3-time MVP talent or whatever it is, with the Angels organization and just not winning. So I feel like, I hear a lot of different teams out there. I think what I'm hearing the most is Dodgers, maybe some Giants, and then Cubs. So, and then maybe there's some play for the Mets. And then, of course, there's always the talk of the Yankees. But I feel like it just seems like he's much more of the West Coast guy. He could have signed with the Yankees or any of those other teams, right? But he chose to sign with the Angels. Now I think it's you know what? I've had, the glitz, the glamour, and stuff like that. Now I want to be winning, right? And that's where I feel like, at least my pick of who I think he's going to be with. And I think this team has been kind of setting themselves up for this is the Dodgers. I hate to say it, the rich get a little bit richer here, albeit they're going to pay a fortune to get him, so maybe not that rich. But I think Shohei, he wants to stay in LA. He doesn't have to move or anything like that. Just just chill and have a winning organization, have with all the resources, has a lot of young talent around there, as well as awesome veterans and a culture of winning. So it's what other better organization right now at this day in this roster than, say, the Dodgers and what they can do. They'll be, winning the division basically every single year, be in the playoffs. And I think Shohei is just going to be hungry for that and to showcase his talent. So, I don't know. I don't know if there's any other team that makes more sense or what all the rationale is for some of the other teams, but I feel like, he wants to stay in California. Sorry, Cubs fans. Sorry, New York Mets fans or New York Yankees fans or whomever, right? I just feel like he wants to stay in California. I think the Dodgers just make the most sense for him.
Yeah. No, those are all good points. I mean, what we've been seeing from the news is, hey, are the Cubbies in the hunt for this? Are they the front runners? I've seen things from the Braves to the Rangers. Maybe those would be shorter timeline, high AAV contracts just based on where they're at. Would he go back to the Angels? I don't know. I don't really think so. Not where, they've been and where they're probably going. So I'm with you fully. I'm going in with the Dodgers here. like you said, they basically didn't go out, didn't really do much this past offseason. Felt like, hey, they were trying to clear the books and open up that space to be able to sign Ohtani. And what's weird is it's not really conventional for the Dodgers to be going out and thinking about, a 10 to 12, year deal for, one of these top end players. Like they're more or less like making pitches at the 3 to 4 year range, trying to get guys in their prime at the highest AAV, possible. Like they did that with Bryce Harper. I'm sure they offered contracts like that to Max Scherzer as well. Maybe Justin Verlander didn't quite land it, but they need to make a splash. I think this year they need to do a lot of things to make them a more competitive team when it comes down to being in the playoffs. I think with Ohtani not really being able to pitch this upcoming year, that definitely is a ding for him just in terms of what he can get contract wise. I worry about that. I mean, 2 arm surgeries in his short career already might be tough to see. Like, how much does he actually get on the hill over the lifetime value of that deal? Like, it might be half the amount of years he's actually pitching, so that's a huge downside, in terms of signing a guy like Ohtani. But you look at the upside, batted 300 with 45 home runs this year, had a 10 WAR. I mean, it's obviously going along with 10 wins and a 3 ERA as a starter too. So, I mean, those things combined, I mean, he's a magnificent player. I do think he signs with the Dodgers. The one thing that I'll just throw out there, it might be a little controversial, is like, not going to say this is going to be a bust type of signing, but I think whatever the total value is for this contract, let's just hope, the years on it, if it gets to the 12-year mark, like I know everybody loves Shohei and he's an amazing athlete and he's done a lot of great things, but I do, again, worry about that arm. And if you're paying for 2 superstars for the price of 1, like that's when I get a little bit nervous. So it better be a big market club or a team that can make a big trade if he's, 3 or 4 years into it. And it's just like, they can't afford, him anymore, but he will definitely constrain the books for whoever signs him.
Oh yeah, he'll definitely like eat up as much capital as possible, and rightfully so. I mean, what player has contributed both on whether it be pitching or the offensive side too? And I think offensive wise, like his stats kind of rack right up there with like Aaron Judge even, right, in terms of homers, OPS, and such. Like, so he can honestly probably ask for a similar contract as what I think a lot of people are anticipating that Aaron Judge did, and probably even a little bit more, honestly, just inflation, right? But yeah, I mean, the star power he brings, the marketability he brings, I think is there's really is nobody I think that really contends with him, in this day and age. I feel like so. Yeah, Shitani's bringing a lot. He'll bring the Japanese audience to your franchise, as well as the numbers, the stats, and then obviously probably going to be winning some games, especially if he's going to be there with the Dodgers, right? It's like, okay, the Dodgers, there's a reason why they didn't sign Corey Seager, right? Obviously they had some young talent there, but oh yeah, they also had Shohei, maybe they were looking for, and then also Trey Turner as well. So I think they were kind of just gearing for all that, and so yeah, they're going all in. I feel like on Shohei. I feel like, and yeah, he may not be pitching, I think, this year, but maybe they want to have him like playoff time, bottom of the ninth, like that could be some electric stuff you see there if he's able to get healthy and pitch there, kind of maybe in more relief role, so he doesn't put as much wear and tear on his shoulder, but still is able to obviously hit some dingers and get some hits there. He's just really that talented. You can just kind of put him in those prime moments, right? I feel like, and utilize him there. He's built, I think, for playoff baseball. So I don't know. I would definitely be excited to see him on the Dodgers just as a baseball fan here. So
yeah, I mean, it's a good market for him. They'll definitely make hand over fist enough money to probably at least validate that contract's probably be anywhere in the ballpark of 10 to 12 years for $500 to $600 million. We'll just have to see. Yeah, I mean, with what else they could be up to this offseason, it might be, the start of a really dangerous run yet again for the Dodgers. So stay tuned. Number 2, we have Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, so Cody, man, did really well with the Cubs. Like I think I might have called it, or I know a lot of people called it, right? Like this was a good kind of like prove it type of year for Cody. Bouncing back from kind of a struggling year he had, with the Dodgers, right? And then it's like, okay, now what? I think this sets him up really well. And I don't know Cody that well or anything, his persona or what he's looking for. But to me, what makes the most sense, maybe from the baseball standpoint, I think, is for him to go to the Yankees. Yankees, they needed some hitting. They needed some hitting. They need some hitting. They need some hitting. Kind of had struggled, right, a little bit offensively this year, or should I say a lot of it. And I think Eddie and Cody Bellinger, a lefty bat, oh man, in Yankee Stadium, I feel like that's going to be awesome for them. So, yeah, I got Cody going to the Yankees. Yankees, they obviously have the capital to invest in a player like Cody Bellinger. He's definitely going to make some money here for the former 2019 National League MVP. Maybe he does get back to that 40 homer mark right at Yankee Stadium just with that short right field. I feel like that's just a great match made in heaven for him, and great place for his marketability as well. So having been in LA and then going to New York, I think this is good for him.
Yeah. No, I'm with you again. I went with the Yankees too. No, I think he's a perfect fit there, especially throwing him out there in center field for some of the earlier years of the contract. And then, once Anthony Rizzo retires, you can slot him over at first base whenever you feel ready. He's a man of many extremes, right? Because he's been a Rookie of the Year, an MVP, had a great run in the World Series as well. And then the bottom absolutely just fell out, and he had two, awful years. I mean, years where you pick up a minor leaguer, just your, zero WAR player, your average replacement player would have been better than a guy like Cody Bellinger. Goes to Chicago in a get right year on a 1-year deal with an option, and probably is like more or less like what his new standard is probably going to be. It's going to be around, probably 280 to 300. He's probably putting up 20, 30 home runs. Like, who knows what could happen in New York, like you're saying, with a short porch. But I think you also have to factor in some of that downside risk too. And, the deals that I've been seeing right now, MLB TR basically said 12 years, $264 million. I'm just saying, I don't want to be the team paying him that much money for 12 years. It'll bring him into his age 40 season. Like, there are some of these guys like we've been, seeing the last few years, the Bryce Harpers, the Manny Machados. We got Trey Turner, we got Aaron Judge. We got guys who are signed into their, year 40 type of deal. But I feel like they're on a different shelf than Cody. Like Cody to me, he's probably your above average to, all-star type player, whereas some of these guys are perennial all-star to Hall of Fame bound type players. And I don't see that with Cody. I think there's going to be a lot of mixed years. And to be honest with you, him going to New York is so fitting because they've, signed guys like Aaron Judge, who got injured in the first year of that deal. And then, they're holding on to Giancarlo Stanton, where they're just sitting there and they're like, hey man, this guy, his injuries are baked into his game, like the GM Cashman's like coming out and kind of dogging him a little bit. And, Stanton and his agent are fighting back on kind of the rhetoric and stuff. It just kind of sounds like, it's kind of like the LA Angels of the East, from what we've seen of the Yanks over the last 10 years or so. And yeah, I mean, I think he fills an immediate need here, but again, like this long-term high, price, contract, like it may not be the best thing for him.
Yeah, definitely not 12-year. Like if there was maybe a 4 or 5-year contract, that would probably make the most sense for both parties. I think from the Belgian side, it's like, okay, yeah, that gives him some security, especially in his prime years, right? Probably want that 5-year deal because, yeah, age 28, like that really is the prime year. I think somebody did some analysis on that, right? As age 28 for most Major League Baseball players, that's like when they starting to peak, right? And we see that he's age 28 to probably age 22, so this is kind of like the perfect time to like sign him to that type of deal. But obviously, if you're Cody Bellinger's agent, you're like, okay, that's nice, but can we get a little bit more security from there? After he hits his prime years to age 34, 35, like what is he going to be doing? Is he going to still be hitting that 280 to 300 range, or maybe he's hitting closer to 240, 250, and maybe he's hitting, maybe low 20s homers, which, I think that's what I feel, just like based off of, his history, his swing a little bit too. He's definitely much more of he's had the history of like having a kind of that golf swing a little bit, right? So I don't know. I definitely see that probably as the most, that as a deal that makes more sense, 4 or 5 years or something like that. So, but yeah, I think the Yankees, they can definitely spell it down, like you mentioned. They have a history of just getting sluggers, even on bad contracts, and then kind of holding them there, even if it doesn't make sense, but because they can financially just do that, right? So,
Yeah, I actually like your point a lot about going for a 5-year deal. That would allow him to, maybe bring that AAV up per season over 5 years. Say, hey, like maybe you're then paying me, 30 mil, 25 to 30 mil a year, versus, if you pay me, the 10-year, 12-year piece, maybe we bring that down to, anywhere between like 18 to 20 some million, dollars per season. If I'm a club, I'm wanting the 5-year deal. I might bring that value up on the deal, but again, allows Cody to go back into free agency probably in his early 30s. And, if he's had a productive stretch, like he could still get another 3 to 4 year contract, past that point. And that might be best for everybody involved. But we'll just have to see. It'll be interesting to see where Cody lands and just, how good he plays over the course of his career. Our next one, number 3, is Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
yeah, Yamamoto, man, really exciting to see him. Yeah, I don't know. I just like whenever I see highly touted, I guess, Japanese players. It always seems like at least the highly touted ones, they'll come in and they'll make a little bit of a ruckus here. I think there's been some nice solid ones that have been occurring. I think I'm looking to see like where the rumors are landing. It's kind of the usual suspects, right? The Dodgers, Mets, and I'm also seeing Red Sox here. I think there's a couple of factors, right? Like, have they signed Japanese players in the past, and is there going to be some sort of? I think obviously it's like, are they going to be playing for a big market team and such as well? So, but I don't know. I have him going to the Mets. Actually, I think the Mets make the most sense, at least in my opinion, on this. Maybe the Dodgers. I don't know if I feel like there's going to be. I'm kind of banking on the Dodgers getting Shohei, and then that kind of kills a little bit more of their budget, and then they're just going to have more filler type of players around Shohei. So kind of banking on that to happen. But yeah, the Mets, obviously they got rid of Scherzer and Verlander last year, right? Or last year. Pitching a little bit thinner, I think, coming into this season. They do have Cody Senga as well, so it's like he had a great year last year, and I think kind of that factors in. It's like, oh, he had a great year, and maybe I can learn more about the soft approaches that he had kind of coming in from Japan, and kind of getting into that whole acclimation, kind of like when we talk about the White Sox, how Jose Abreu or a lot of the Cuban players, right? It became like a destination because of all that, having that culture of whether it's Japanese players or Cuban players being there already and kind of showing you the ropes a little bit. I think that's invaluable. So I have him, going there, and that'd be a nice kind of combination over there. I feel like for the New York Mets, if they can actually have both those players, Cody and then Yamamoto, I feel like that would just be deadly. And having that, and then they still have some decent offensive players as well. So like this could definitely be a team. I think we both predicted them to do pretty well, I think, this previous season. And they obviously kind of just flopped. So, but having two starters like that maybe sub 3 ERA, maybe they are both able to pitch like 170 innings, right? I think that can be very valuable for the Mets. So I'm going to go Yamamoto going to the Mets here.
It's a good pick. I like the Kodai Senga point. I mean, if I was coming from Japan into a new league, I'd like to know that some of my teammates are Japanese, that I can get acclimated to the city, play, in the same rotation as another guy that maybe I played with, in or around Japan. So I think that's smart. Like you're saying, New York too, they've hosted a lot of Japanese players over time. It's obviously a major attraction, I think, to anybody coming in from abroad. So, solid points, overall. I think with Yamamoto, I took a alternative approach. I was just kind of looking at teams that have pitching needs and also have deep pockets to to spend this offseason. And for me, I feel like California is also a very attractive destination. I could see the San Francisco Giants making a really big pitch to Yamamoto. They came up short last offseason on the Judge and Correa pitches. They obviously had a very underwhelming season yet again. 2 years in a row since having a really outstanding 21. And I think they're kind of done, nibbling at the edges. I think like the Boston Red Sox, who cleared out, their executive staff as well. It's just, you can't always play deep, rich analytics all the time and try to look for treasure in the trash and stuff. Sometimes you got to go out and put a big contract forward and get a player that's a bona fide talent. And I think they've got Logan Webb out there in their rotation. I think they'd love to have another top end arm to go, along with, the others that they basically cobbled together on 1 to 2 year deals. So, I think he's probably going to be netting, somewhere between, 7, maybe 8 years. We're looking at north of $100 million on any sort of deal for him. But I think he'll return value because a lot of these Japanese players who have established themselves in Japan, when they've come over, recently, especially, like sometimes it's been hit and miss like in the 2000s, but in these last couple of seasons, every Japanese player has been basically a hit. So I'd be going after him pretty aggressively here.
Yeah, no, honestly, I like age 25 as well. Yeah, I don't know too many of the ones that have missed as much, right? Especially of late. So yeah, I see him. Yeah, if he can get $100 million contract like right off the bat, like that'd be golden for him. But yeah, like age 25, if he's able to get 7-8 year deal, I think that'll be great for him. It takes him to like early 30s, right, hitting his prime. So that'll probably be the best deal. I think that makes the sense for both of them. Like get the long term security, and then for whatever organization signs him, you get him at the prime years, and then maybe we'll see what happens with him. Maybe is he healthy or does he kind of digress in his later, early 30s there or something like that, usually happens. So some things to consider there, but yeah, like definitely like, he was a Triple Crown winner over there in Japan. Like he's just not some sort of finesse type of pitcher. He's a great pitcher. He's an MVP type of level of pitcher. Like they're Justin Verlander in his prime type of pitcher over there. So bring him over here. Like he can be an ace in any organization, I feel like. So, but yeah, I definitely like the Giants pick. That could be definitely good, I think, for him. And yeah, pitching in that ballpark too, like a lot of aces going to go through there, and nice to have success, right? If being in that very pitcher friendly stadium there.
Yeah. MLBTR has a 9-year, $225 million projection for him. I mean, that's a little bit different than what we're talking about. If you're around like 150 or something for 6 or 7 years, like that's a little bit more palatable for a guy who's never stepped in there. But you're basically paying him Aaron Nola money for greater years for a guy who's never pitched in the pros. I mean, that's a different conversation I think to have, to be honest with you. But that might be what it takes to get him inked.
I mean, that'd be nuts, right? I mean, that's like one thing about, the difference, I think, with the Japanese league too and MLB, right? Is MLB, there's more games, more innings pitched usually, right? So, how much wear and tear is he going to be like? Is he going to be able to do 180 innings, 200, innings pitched, right? You got to factor that in as well. So, yeah, just some things to consider. But yeah, 220, a player who hasn't pitched in Major League Baseball, like getting an Aaron Nola contract, who has a history and record of success in this league, like that's a tough one. But if he's able to get 100 million like right off the bat though, or maybe 150, like that'd be incredible. Maybe that's more approachable, but I don't know. We'll see. That's definitely that's like Red Sox Yankee money. Like, all right, yeah, we'll just burn whatever we can to win, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Our number 4, we have Blake Snell.
Man, Blake Snell, Cy Young winner, did it or kind of struggled off the gate, right, with the Padres, but then, has been a staple within that rotation. One thing I don't like about him is his walks, right, but he's able to kind of work through that, and He's had that history of success. So I don't know. It's like, yeah, 2-time Cy Youngs. Like, I don't know how many 2-time Cy Youngs are out there that, enter in some sort of free agency market. And, obviously he's going to get some top billing. And, I think I did talk about, right, the Dodgers, right, and getting Shohei. I'm kind of banking on that, right? It's like, all right, if there's going to be a snowball effect, I think, with Shohei, it's like, all right, if the Dodgers aren't able to land Shohei, there's going to be a bunch of pitchers that they'll probably want to get, right? Or maybe maybe they do make a play on Cody Bellinger. I don't know, right? But yeah, like there's going to be a lot of other factors or domino effect, I think, that happens there. So based off that, Shohei going to the Dodgers, I think with Blake Snell, I'm looking at teams that need pitching, and that kind of make the most sense. I'm going to go with the Cardinals, actually. I think the Cardinals, they really don't have much of a pitcher rotation at the moment, yet they still have a pretty good offense, and I think we've been talking about them like, being contenders of recent years, so I feel like they still have a window with Paul Goldschmidt, and Arenado, right? They just need some pitching depth, and what better way to do that than getting the Cy Young winner there in the NL? So, great organization. I think a lot, and maybe I'm hoping that would, from the Cardinals' perspective, get Blake Snell to kind of give him a look-see. Is like, hey, we have a history, a track record of success. I know both you and we picked the Cardinals to win the division this year and everything, but things just didn't work out that way. So, hopefully he does see like, hey, this is a great organization. This year just wasn't their year. But yeah, they have a history of building successful teams for decades and a winning culture. So going to go side with them as opposed to, the Padres, who they're spending a bunch of money, but not too much to show for it. So yeah, would love to see the Cardinals make a play on here.
I do like the Cardinals pick too, because like you're saying, going into this year, we all thought they'd probably, be a true contender there in the NL Central. Pitching is what really, set them back. I think, their offense, they have a lot of great pieces there. They can definitely, put it together on the offensive side of the ball. But yeah, pitching wise, that was kind of their Achilles heel. They had nobody they could really, go to as a horse. Aaron Nola just signed with the Phillies, and they were rumored to be really, deep in on the Nola signing, and just didn't work out for them. So that'd be interesting. I think for me, looking at where Blake Snell has been, he has, been in the AL East before. He knows a lot of those teams there. He's probably comfortable pitching in a lot of those parks, given his time with Tampa. I'm looking at a team that, obviously, got rid of some of their executive staff and brought in a former relief pitcher, Craig Breslow, to take over on all player personnel decisions. He's a left-handed reliever, in his past, and I'm sure he'd love to have, a staff ace there, especially another lefty like Blake Snell to kind of go along with Chris Sale. And they've had James Paxton these past couple of years. They'll probably maybe let him walk, but in a lot of ways, I think Boston needs to get back to being the Red Sox we remember. It's not this Moneyball type approach to guys and rosters and stuff. Like, they spend money. They're obviously very smart as an organization. So I'm sure they did their due diligence on guys, but I'm sure they want to make a splash here. They need the help at pitching, and they've got the money to do it. So yeah, I think Blake would probably be comfortable going back there. And I've seen a price tag of around 7 years for $200 million. That feels pretty appropriate for a 2-time Cy Young, winner, and 2-time ERA title winner too. He can definitely fluctuate season to season, like you mentioned, but I just think he'd be a great fit there, and I think he would definitely get into Boston baseball culture.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely fits that Boston, I think, mold a little bit. I think the one thing is like, there is definitely something with lefties going to Boston, but at the same time, I think that's oftentimes overplayed a little bit, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, there's the Green Monster, and it's like a right-handed hitter's like ballpark, right? But at the same time, it's like there's been some pretty good lefties, I think, coming through Boston and everything, right? With whether it's Lester, David Price that one time, Chris Sale, it's like that really hasn't deterred them from being there. So yeah, I could definitely see that, and I do think that the Boston Red Sox will be better next year than they were this year. So they've just been kind of slowly like building a team a little bit, more methodical, not just making those big splashes. To your point, like I think a lot of the bigger organizations, right? They try to be more methodical about building a team, and as opposed to just spending crazy dollars here and there. But yeah, I think now is the time that they're going to start to be loading up on the roster and acquiring free agents here and there. And so I can definitely see that with Blake Snell. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the Padres do make a play on there, like you mentioned. They are going through some budgetary issues here and there, so it'll be awesome to see. Where a two-time Cy Young lands, right? Like how many times has it happened in the recent years of a multiple Cy Young winner, right, going to multiple organizations, like 3 or 4 organizations within the span of like 5 years, right? But
Yeah, no, it's been a while since Nolan Ryan played the game, so we'll see. But
yeah.
All right, well, we're skipping over MLBTR's number 5. It was Aaron Nola as he re-signed with the Philadelphia Phillies for 7 years, 175. Not too bad for Aaron, but at number 6 and for our number 5, we're going to go with Jordan Montgomery.
I mean, Jordan Montgomery, he's been like quietly one of my favorite players. Very like he just doesn't give up runs, basically, right? Like that's his thing. He's big, he's intimidating, but yeah, he just doesn't give that many runs. And like what I see from Jordan Montgomery, he's always had like a sub-4 ERA the past couple of seasons. Wins games, and this playoffs was like one of the best pitchers, I think, in all baseball in the playoffs here. So really like what I see from him. Couple teams that come up, I think, are he did play for the Cardinals, and then again, like I mentioned before, they're building up a rotation over there. Do the Rangers re-sign him? I think that they have enough pitching there. I think they've spent already enough money there, and this was kind of just like they wanted a pitcher to be there to help bolster up the pitching staff a little bit. But with DeGrom coming back, and then Scherzer, it's like, okay, I think that we're okay here. Maybe we can spend more on some other areas. So I'm gonna go with the North Siders. I'm gonna go with the Cubs here, actually making a play. Yeah, I think Cubs, they want to win now. They got Craig Counsell. They spent some money on him, did a little shady stuff or whatever. We can all talk about that with Mr. Rossi Ross. But in the end of the day, it's not personal. It's just business. So I think that they want to load up on some talent. I think they could use a lefty in their pitching rotation there. So Jordan Montgomery, I think that makes the most sense. What better way to get some revenge against the Cardinals, than pitching for the Cubs? And I think that would definitely bolster up the Cubs roster, and I think that makes sense for Jordan Montgomery. It's like, okay, great time to cash in now. Got that World Series ring. Has showcased he can be, a very formidable, like maybe number 3 person in the rotation, or 3-4, something like that. I really like him. I think he could be an excellent starter here. And yeah, would love to see him on the north side and get some W's for the Cubbies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good fit. I mean, obviously the Cubs are going to spend. You don't spend $8 million for 5 seasons on a manager. I think it's precedent setting, obviously, for the game of baseball. But it's like, if you're doing that, you're all in, and you're going after all the big names. And obviously, they've been rumored to go after Shohei Ohtani. That pans out. That'll be pandemonium in Chicago, at least on the north side. But yeah, man, I think that is a good fit. They obviously need the rotation help. Marcus Stroman is going to be free, so they'll be losing him if they don't go after him as well. So, yeah, and I think that just kind of sets them up for the new era of what the Cubs want to be. I mean, they want to be, future-looking team. I mean, they're probably, steering more away from those short-term deals with older guys, unless they're, the last pieces to their playoff team. So, yeah, go ahead and grab, staff anchor. I mean, NLBTR is projecting 6 years, $150 million. That feels really great to sign a guy like that for that price tag, especially when we're considering what Nola got, what Yamamoto might get on the free agent market, what Snell might get. I mean, like you were saying, he's quietly one of your favorite players. It's like, because nobody's talking about him, and he's really, quietly low key, like a number 2, pitcher on a World Series winner. I mean, he won the World Series this last year. spinning gems round to round against all sorts of tough opponents in harsh environments. And hey, man, I got a soft spot for him too because he's a Gamecock, and I've actually seen him play in college in South Carolina. So shout out to the South Carolina Gamecock baseball team there, who's won a couple national championships in the 2010s. But all that aside, I'm kind of going with a similar approach to you. I'm looking for a club that needs a key starter, and especially a guy who you can get on pretty decent value, just given the relativity of what starters are getting these days. And there's no team that needs a starter more, especially on some sort of discount, than the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, at this point, you're looking at the rotation they put together last year. I mean, they cobbled it together around Grayson Rodriguez, who was obviously going into his rookie year, but guys like Dean Kramer, Tyler Wells, Kyle Gibson, Jack Flaherty being acquired and not doing very much. I mean, they need a guy that they can trust every fifth day, who can be their staff anchor, and God, somebody who's battle tested and even took them down in the playoffs last year. I mean, they have so many guys on this roster that are pre-arbitration to arbitration right now, where their payroll is not going to be very high, and they need somebody who, can be, the guy they depend on, but somebody who can obviously, I guess percentage wise take up a big amount of their current payroll. And, it's not going to affect them too much just yet. So with all that said, I think he'd be a perfect fit there. He'd be a perfect fit pretty much everywhere he wants to sign. But yeah, give me Montgomery going to Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore definitely needs pitching. They need veteran pitching. I think that's been the biggest thing by far out of any other anything else that they need some veteran pitching. And then whether it is Jordan Montgomery, I mean, there's several other pitchers out there obviously, but I think Jordan Montgomery, in my opinion, would make the most sense for really any organization. But yeah, to your point, I think they definitely need some sort of veteran starting pitcher to kind of also show the way a little bit for the younger staff, because they have a really talented young staff, but that's just kind of what they are. And I think complementing that with some sort of veteran presence, I think makes a lot of sense. Veteran pitchers have always kind of paired up really well with young pitchers to kind of showcase a little bit of like, okay, this is how you go about things. I know Mark Burley, right? He learned a lot from David Wells, right? And he kind of learned how to pitch fast, pitch smart, and finesse things a little bit. Both players were not the best in shape, but then they had deadly cutters, and they were able to field their positions. So yeah, some player like that I think can make a lot of sense. Another player would be like Sonny Gray maybe, or a player like that caliber. But yeah, right around there, I think Jordan Montgomery, Sonny Gray type of player makes a lot of sense. I think for Orioles, because they won a lot of games this previous year, but yeah, they needed that veteran presence. I think, especially come playoff time, right? I think that's certainly is where they struggled a little bit there.
No doubt. Well, that's our top five. There are many, many free agents, that we could cover, but we're just going to stick with those five. So hopefully you enjoyed. Go in the comments. Let us know what you think. Where are some of these guys going that we didn't mention? We'd love to hear what you have to say and kind of banter back and forth. Now for the main event for tonight is our Chicago White Sox, who unfortunately finished at near the bottom of the league last year after finishing 500 in 2022, winning the division in 21. Obviously having a playoff berth in the shortened 2020 season. There was a lot to look forward to a couple of years ago. Now we kind of know what the reality of the situation is. It's a little bit bleaker, but it's nice to know that we're, refreshing the executive staff. We brought in some new coaches. We have a lot of payroll to work with. We just saw Chris Getz pull off a 5-for-1 deal for Aaron Bummer to bring over a lot more pitching depth, infield depth, you name it. Just looking at Spot Track and the roster that we have and their payroll overall, it looks like it could be ranging anywhere from 105 to 120 million based on their 40-man roster as of right now. Looking at where the White Sox were spending over the last couple of years, it was in the range of 180 to 190 million dollars. Jerry Reinsdorf's been on the news basically saying that he wants to see that payroll come down just a touch. So I don't know what that means exactly, but I guess conservatively, I've kind of estimated maybe that's somewhere in the range of 170, 175 million dollars going into 2024. if they're looking at that, that top end of the range. So I have a lot more thoughts. I have a lot more assumptions that I've kind of baked in, but I guess I'll just kick it over to you, Wayne, if you have any kind of initial framing thoughts for the White Sox in this offseason ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a transitionary year. I feel like that the White Sox are going through. At least in my opinion. I did like the trade, obviously with Bummer, right? It's like they kind of capitalized. I feel like that's the main thing. It felt like we weren't just kind of sitting back and just watching things go. We were actually like trying to do things and make our club and our future a little bit brighter. We capitalized on, I think, the Braves. I think you might have mentioned before, like the Braves, like the reason why they did this wasn't because of the talent. They're just big fans of Aaron Bummer, right? But yeah, because I think a couple of those players that they traded for were on their 40-man roster, and these are players that were probably going to go bye anyways. So might as well get something for him, and then who knows what happens with Aaron Bummer? I think middle relief pitchers. 1 year they have an 8 ERA, the next year they have a 2 ERA, and that's just how it is. And it is nice to have like a lefty, in the bullpen there. So I get it makes sense. I think for both squads, kind of a win-win in a way here. So, but yeah, I think adding in some just overall young talent. I think that's the biggest thing. Adding in some young talent, and then if we are able to add a vet for cheap or something like that, that kind of sets a tone. Like has a veteran presence to them. That it's like, okay, I want this person and players like him, right? Because I think that was something we missed completely this past couple of seasons was a player, especially with Jose Abreu, right, leaving for the Astros. That's like, hey, this is just how you do business. This is how you are to be as a Major League Baseball player. This is like the White Sox culture. Just somebody with that winning pedigree that you want to emulate. A lot of young talent that we had on here. So I think a combination of that just probably makes the most sense for the White Sox. I'm trying to give Chris Getz the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I would have liked to have somebody obviously outside of the organization from an organization from the Rays or the Marlins or something like that, or I don't know. A lot of other people I would have liked to have seen in that seat, but it is what it is, and we'll see what happens if he is able to kind of shut us up and then actually get some talent. And like I said, this was a good start, I think, with the Aaron Bummer trade here. So I don't know. Are there any players you want to talk about? But or any maybe there's some free agents out there, some of those vets I was talking about, like that you want to see. Like I would love to see 25 players just like this guy.
Yeah. Well, man, I guess like I have framed this up for myself. Like I've penciled down some assumptions that I'm working with here, just to level set a little bit. But I think the first one for me is like we probably have $50 million in capital to spend, like on a year-to-year basis. Like we're adding $50 million on an annual basis to our roster. Looking at the fact that Benintendi is the highest contract we've ever doled out at 5 years, 75. I'm going to make an assumption that we're not going to break the bank and go above a contract of that size and volume. And then I just also looked at some of our needs. I mean, I looked at our 40-man roster. I penciled it down in terms of salary, in terms of positions and such. We definitely need a catcher, a second baseman, a shortstop, a right fielder, and at very least a starting pitcher and an extra reliever. We have a lot of guys who will be battling for spots throughout spring training and might sign a bunch of guys to minor deals and things like that. But like fundamentally, that's kind of what we need. So just kind of looking at that, the 6 positions or so, the average spend is probably be somewhere around $8 million per player. I guess I have a bunch of guys that I've highlighted on these positions, but maybe I'll just start it off with 2 guys that I'm most excited about us signing. And I want to get your thoughts. And then, for sure we'll answer your questions on the 25-man roster. Guys I'd love to see fill that out. Veterans that we could bring in too. But for me, based on what you said, I'm in complete agreement of where we are. There's been these rumors floated around by Reinsdorf and Getz that we're going for it in 24. We're trying to win the Central, yada, yada, yada. What does that really mean? It means that they don't think that much about the Central, and they're going to do as much as they think is necessary to win the Central Division, which for a lot of us doesn't really mean a lot. And what it really says is, we're not trying to compete with the Dodgers, the Astros, the Braves, the Rangers. Like we're just trying to get better than the Twins, which is like a, 88 win team. But for me, the goalposts are starting in 2025. It's starting in 2025. For me, there were two guys that I think could be incredibly interesting anchors that are totally worth the gamble for what they've done in other leagues. They're both international. One's an outfielder and one's a pitcher. The outfielder for me is from the Korean baseball organization. His name's Jung-Hoo Lee. This guy is 25 years old. MLB projects that he would cost 5 years, $50 million. For 7 years, he batted .300 with a 700 OPS. He averaged about 20 to 25 home runs per year. He's a natural center fielder. And a lot of what, folks have been saying scouting wise is that he may not play center field in the major leagues. So if that's, the rumor, hey, we got right field wide open. It's been wide open for a very long time. And everything that Getz has been preaching has been defense, speed, contact, the right way to play the game. Love to bring over a game changer like that. We saw what happened in Boston with Matsuzaka Yoshida. Came in with a lot of skepticism at 5 years, $90 million. Completely earned that contract and more. Batted around 290 with 20 plus home runs for Boston. Was an absolute fixture in the middle of their order. Who knows what he could give us? Maybe gives us 10 to 15 home runs a year. Maybe that's where he's at to start it off. But man, like it gives us youth. It gives us speed. It gives us somebody who can play in our corner. It gives us a new look. It opens us up to Asia for talent. Like sign me up for that. The guy's bats lefty. Perfect. Like perfect. That's my first one. Go after Jung-Hoo Lee. Make that offer competitive. But even if it's competitive, it's still within our budget. Second guy, Cuban pitcher Yariel Rodriguez. Guy's 26 years old. He's averaged about 100 innings a year, 3 ERA. MLBTR projects he'd be 4 years, $32 million. For me, you're getting a guy in his prime window. We have a lot of familiarity with Cuban players. We've got a few on our roster. We've got Luis Robert. We've got Yoan Moncada, obviously. We've got guys who come from that place and could be great assets to a guy like Yariel coming in. I mean, I know we've talked a lot about culture. We don't love Moncada, but we sure as hell love having Luis Robert on this team. I think he'd be a perfect fit. He's a great flyer. 4 years, 32, would bring him into his age 30 season at the very end of it. At this point, we obviously need guys who can gobble up innings, but we also need to shoot for some upside here. And, that length of contract would get us into our contention window too. So those are the first two guys I wanted to throw out there for any sort of discussion and just hear what you have to say, Wayne.
Yes. Yes. I know. I 100% agree. I think all those players make sense. And then, yeah, for the right dollar amount too. So I mean, the question, of course, is do they actually want to play here? I think Yariel, he's definitely like somebody that I feel like we can get because of the Cuban element that we do have, and that hey, we'll use whatever advantage or even perceived advantage that we can. Would love to see a player like Jung-Hoo Lee come over as well. I know a lot of Korean baseball players, right? They can get on base, man. they can get on base. Lefty at bat, like you said, and we just need a lot of that. Like I don't want Benintendi to be our best left-handed hitter, right? Like Gavin Sheets, he can hit here and there, but he definitely has not been like the guy, right? So yeah, would love to see somebody like that to kind of mesh with the heavy right-handed talent that we do have, with Vaughn and then obviously Roberts. Like those are definitely the players I think we want to build around. But yeah, having complementary pieces there with left-handed hitters who get on base, we can steal base here and there, play good defense. Like if that's what Getz wants, then I think that really is kind of fits what we have. We have some power, but then obviously complementing that with the speed, the defense. I think especially now, speed is actually a little bit more of a premium now. So if we can get some speedsters to be there with the power that we do have. Great. And then obviously, can they hit? Perfect. Yeah, and then Yariel Rodriguez, I think he fits our timeline. I think that's the idea. He fits our timeline. We can be patient with him. He can develop, and yeah, we can get him for a good cost. I think for the next several years. So all those players, I think, can make sense. Will we do it? I don't know. Do they want to come here? I don't know. I think those are the bigger questions. But yeah, would love to see players such as those two guys you mentioned joining the squad, and then yeah, that can definitely help us improve. I think overall for the next couple of years.
For sure. So, in the vein of your question, did you want me to answer that, or do you want to throw out a player or two that you're, most interested in?
Player that I'm most interested in. Well, you were talking about, I think, second base, right? Was one thing, like one position, and it's like, we've had this experimentation, I think, with older vets, young people, and I don't know. I'm kind of like like we need to get this thing done. I feel like we've had second base kind of just be there, like an open spot that Elvis Andrews, like, yeah, great. If we got him like 5-6 years ago, that would have been perfect. But yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about Whitfield a little bit, but at the same time, it kind of feels like that we're getting into that same vein of older players. But I don't know. He's kind of played it okay though, and maybe we can utilize him and then still like develop somebody and yeah, use him as a plug and play. I just don't think that Elvis Andrews. I feel like he's going to be gone. He's not going to come back again, and so I don't know. Is there a second baseman that you think you want to see for the White Sox, or maybe Merrifield is the answer there?
Yeah, this goes along to your question, by the way, guys that I want to have on the team. I think going into kind of researching the offseason, the guys that are available, and knowing our needs, shortstop and second base, both come with some pretty big holes here. Like I know people are standing in the White Sox organization about bringing over Nicky Lopez. Love the kid's glove, amazing glove guy from Naperville, but he hasn't done much with the bat. I mean, averaging like 2 home runs a year, batting 220, 230, 240. I mean, that's a backup utility infielder and a good one at that. I'd love to have him kind of mixed up as around the diamond because he's defensive runs saved are off the charts, especially at all 4 infield positions. So love having Lopez, but it's not a starter guy. When I first thought about this offseason, Ahmed Rosario stood out to me so much because he's the type of guy that, it's kind of that grit and grind player that I think they're looking for. Guy who's batting, 270, has a little bit of pop, has averaged about 10 homers, 60 RBIs, can also get you 15 to 20 stolen bases. Had a bit of a down year going to Los Angeles coming from Cleveland, but also just comes from Cleveland, like knows how the Guardians play ball. We want to play like the Guardians. That's basically what I've been hearing out of Chris Getz. It's like, we want to have small ball. We want to have a great defense, some speed. Why not take a guy who's been, in Cleveland for the majority of his career? He is a liability somewhat at shortstop, but I think the beauty of it is that by the time Colson Montgomery is ready, you can shift Ahmed Rosario over to second base, and he can be that kind of asset for you right there once Colson is ready, and you can have Nicky Lopez be that stopgap at short if you need it. In that sense, on the same question at second base too, I think this is kind of it can be Rosario or it can be Rosario and I think the and for me is Adam Frazier. Adam Frazier's kind of been on our radar for a while when he was with Pittsburgh, San Diego in terms of trades. He's 32 years old. Last year, he actually had kind of a comeback year with the Orioles, batted 240 with 13 homers, 60 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. He's 32 years old, and he got a 1-year, $8 million deal last year. I think if we did a 1-year deal, 2-year deal in that $5 to $8 to $10 million range, that might be decent. And I think the beauty of Adam Frazier too is he plays second base. He's a little bit below grade as a second base defender, but he is a 60 defensive runs saved average right fielder. And I think the beauty of that is he bats lefty. if you had Rosario and him up the middle, by the time Colson's ready to come up, you scoot Rosario over, you push Frazier out to right field if we don't get Lee out there. So it's kind of like, I kind of like this idea of going after these grinder types that can play multiple positions. And then we're starting to get creative. We're starting to really like mix and match our lineup on a daily basis to go against whoever, we're playing. And I think Frazier's been on enough good teams to know what it takes to win, and seems like a pretty stable guy overall. So, why not add him as like one of our key vets here in the next 2 years? And the only thing I'll say to Merrifield, I love Merrifield, man. Another Gamecock, another guy that I've seen play in college, but he is 35 years old. He's going into his age 35 season. So how many more good years does he have left? And when we're actually trying to contend, can he actually be a part of that mix?
Yeah. I mean, I do like the Frazier. He more lefty at bat as well. So, and at second baseman, premium position. Yeah. If he can get 10 homers, yeah, bat 240, 250, something like that, get on base 300, something like that. Perfect. That's exactly, I think, what we want for second base, especially if this is a build-up year. We're not expecting him to hit 30 homers or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know, some combination like of that, or yeah, if there is a player out there that can play like second base or outfield, that would be nice too. But obviously, that's not easier said than done sometimes. I don't know. It is like, I don't think we can find like a obviously young second baseman that we just know is going to rock it like right off the bat there. But yeah, for me, it's like, yeah, if we can get, I don't know, maybe it is like a filler in there, kind of like an Elvis Andrews, just younger basically. But yeah, hopefully a lefty at bat. I don't know. Other names I'm looking at, I'm looking at like Colton Wong, like maybe he, can we just like get as much every single ounce of talent that he has left. Obviously, he's kind of struggled, I think, of recent years, but has playoff pedigree. Kind of has that gritty attitude that you want to build off a team from. Like like I was mentioning before, culture setters. So if we can get that from a second baseman, then that's great. So, but yeah, I think Adam Frazier would be great. We'll see if he wants to stay though. I feel like they're building up some stuff over there with the Baltimore Orioles. But at the same time, yeah, would love to have that kind of caliber player, I think, join the White Sox. But yeah, some player that has a history of winning can, and actually hit a little bit too. At second base makes sense.
For sure. And I do like that you threw out Colton Wong. He was on my short list of guys that I put down on paper because, like you're saying, he's going to be free. I mean, he's going to be maybe $1 million contract right there, and he's just a lottery ticket, and what are you really asking for? Like, we're talking about 240, 250 with 10 home runs and some good defense, and somebody who's been there and done it. He's had a lot of time with St. Louis and some in Milwaukee and even in Seattle where he struggled, but it's like, yeah, man, he's got that right character that I think you want to have some veterans in this younger clubhouse too. We need that balance. So no, I think that's a great name. Moving down my line of needs here, we talked infield, we talked outfield a bit. Looking at catcher, there's a couple guys that really stand out. One in particular for me, but Victor Caratini, 30 years old. I mean, last year batted 260 with a 700 plus OPS, had 7 bombs, and was pretty much a league average catcher. But age 30 season is a switch hitter. He's also been on playoff teams before, whether it's, been with the Cubs, Padres, I think this past year with the Brewers. But, I mean, he signed for $3 million for 1 year with the Brewers and had pretty much an average season for him. So you make him a year older or so, maybe had a little bit more pop this past season. Maybe he's asking for $5 million. Why not hook up with him on a 3-year deal, 3-year deal, lock down your catcher position for a couple of seasons, a guy who can play league average ball, and somebody I think has a really good reputation around the league, somebody who could be kind of that mentor once Edgar Cuero is ready to go, or maybe Corey Lee has a bounce back here in terms of what he can do as a prospect. But yeah, I mean, he was one guy I'm looking at. One guy who really has a huge name but has fallen off the radar, but is actually statistically pretty amazing, is Gary Sanchez. Gary's also 30 years old. He had 19 home runs last year, but what I thought was most impressive is he was the 27th ranked D-WAR player in the game. 17 defensive runs saved on the year. This guy's impressive. I mean, he's got the power. Obviously, the batting average is awful. The on base is awful, but like it's catcher in today's day and age in baseball. It's a pretty ugly position offensively. And man, I mean, he's definitely got the most WAR of any free agent catcher. It's just kind of like you hear the name and you instantly think like strikeouts, you know, bust. You know, he never capitalized on those 30 home run years, but like his last year with the Padres was pretty impressive. I might still steer with Carantini, but man, if Gary Sanchez is basically asking for the same money, why not, man? Why not?
Yeah, I love Sanchez. I love that pick. You know, in our ballpark, like I can definitely see him. You know, if he plays 130 games or something like that, he could probably hit 20 some odd, 30 some odd homers there. Yeah, maybe he bats 200. Adam Dunn's it a little bit, but I'll take that. He mentioned at catcher. If he can he does have presence, like you mentioned. You threw up a lot of his defensive statistics, and has a history of working with some pitching staffs as well. And yeah, let's do that. Like let's utilize his veteran presence of being with he was with the Yankees, with the Twins, right? Like knows different organizations, and then was with the Padres, right? So yeah, would love a player like that, or like Carantini as well. I think those are excellent players who've been around the league a little bit, still have some talent there, like age 30. I think that's great from the catcher perspective. And then, yeah, if we can, utilize those players to, get Corey Lee, be mentors towards them. Would love to see like Corey Lee like resurgence. If he's able to, get 20 homers or something like that, like that'll be a nice surprise, right? I feel like so getting that and then building up a rotation. If we are able to get some of the young pitchers that we do have, right? Obviously, Cease, he's kind of been our veteran presence there, but if there's other players or other pitchers that we can get that we're bringing up, right? Like I think that makes sense. And obviously the rest of our squad, I think, needs that veteran presence. So yeah, would love to see a player like Gary Sanchez or Victor Carantini there. I know a name has been thrown around too, is Mitch Garver, but I don't think it necessarily makes sense for the White Sox at this point. Age 32 or soon to be 33, it looks like. So, but a player like that, just a veteran presence to kind of just install there. But I think if we do see a team like, I'm just going to say like Gary Sanchez there, catcher, Lee out there in right field or something, or like the corner outfield, that would be great. Like he can hit a little bit, just get on base, have decent speed here and there. That's perfect. Good solid defense. Yeah, second base. Like you mentioned, like if we already get Adam Frazier or Colton Wong, just like kind of a stopgap year. We'll see what else we can do there. And then a Yariel, like Rodriguez, I feel like something like that would be great from the pitcher standpoint. Young pitcher that we can build up for the next couple of years. I don't know. I would be like okay with that. And as a build up year, but I don't know. Yeah, I feel like we just need more from a free agency acquisition standpoint. I feel like we need culture setters, just hard working, type of players that we want to build from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The only other two names I wanted to throw out there, at least on the pitching side, two guys that I think will come at an extreme discount. We're talking like $1 million a contract, but Dakota Hudson, who just got non-tendered by the Cardinals. He had almost a 5 ERA last year, but still in his career is 38-20 with a 3.8 ERA. I mean, he might be looking at like a $2 million deal, just trying to get back on the right track. I mean, maybe we could gobble him up for 2 years if we want to get ambitious with 3. Maybe pushing it a little bit, but in the same sense, I mean, he's 29 years old. He's pitched up to 175 innings in the past, 140 this past season. So, he might be interesting there. And then Penn Murphy got non-tendered by the Seattle Mariners after having a 1.29 ERA. He was a 2.70 career ERA as well out of the pen for the Mariners. I mean, he himself 30 years old. I'm thinking this guy could be like our discount setup man if Gregory Santos isn't available or has a tough time. Maybe he's pushing some closer duty here and there, but like there's some bargains around here if you just like look around the pages. And I think the trade that they just pulled for, those guys in the Braves and the Aaron Bummer deal, it's like they're going to be bringing a lot of guys to training camp to compete. I just hope they go after it in that sense and like really just bring in a large volume of these guys that are making minimum salary to $2 million a year and just have them go at it. See what happens.
Yeah, I'm looking down the line here of like, 20, like late 20s, 30-year-old veterans. Like I'm looking at, Wade Miley or like a Zach Davies or even Jack Flaherty. Like, I don't know, players that had terrible years this previous years, but, have a history of success or early success. And it's like, I don't know if we can get a Mike Clevenger type of year, right? Without the abuse, right? Like that, I feel like that would be great. Have that bounce back year, have that Cody Bellinger type of year, right? Where you have a proven kind of deal. Great if you can, utilize this and leverage it as a way to get a next contract, whether it be through us or through another organization, right? I feel like there's just a lot of different players like that from the pitching rotation standpoint that we can get. Yeah, like a 1, maybe 2-year deal at a bargain discount rate. Like, like a Zach Davies or, some of the players I mentioned there. Michael Lorenzen as well. Like, I know he was a little bit of a reliever / starting pitcher there. Like, I feel like we can use any type of player like that there. If we are able to get a Zane Greinke, I know he has nothing left, but like, he's a finesse pitcher, and I think be nice to see a player like that help out some of our younger pitching staff, right? Again, it's all about the development. I feel like we just need, and any player that we can get there, that'd be great if they can help out there. So,
man, yeah, I mean, Greinke's funny because it's like you may not get a lot, but imagine what he could potentially teach to that whole roster of pitchers. Like you were saying with the David Wells example, it's like that's another great guy to kind of model your game after. But I had Lorenzen on my list here too. MLBTR has him going for 2 years, $22 million. They have Giolito going for 2 years, 44. And Lorenzen had better numbers across the board last year and for his career. So it's like, you just got to find that kind of stuff. It's like, I wouldn't be against them bringing back Giolito if it's the right price for maybe a year or two. But it's like, if that's what it's going to cost to get Gio, like go ahead and go get Lorenzen because he's going to be a way better value, in my opinion.
No, for sure. Lorenzen totally makes sense. I think again, like we can bargain hunt. I think we've talked about it before. It's like if we want to be bargain hunters, let's be bargain hunters and let's play it like it is. But yeah, just throw in big contracts of players that don't make sense. Exactly. That's kind of what we're trying to avoid here. So yeah, Lorenzen, be great if we can have a player like him. I don't know, is Cueto still around or ticking? Like, players like that, I think, again, culture setters, we can, to help build up, be good examples, I think, for a younger pitching staff, right? I think is what we're trying to shoot for. So,
yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens this winter. We are already hearing rumors of Dylan Cease, Eloy Jimenez, guys who could be the next ones being traded. So may shake up our boards a little bit as we go along. Maybe, at some point down the line here this winter, we come back and talk about what's happened and what more we want to see, because in most of these years too, like this free agent period can take a very, very long time to completely play out. But definitely excited for it.
Yeah. I mean, do you think we ought to be moving on from Cease? Like that's the fun question, right? Because I think we have him for I think until 2025, if I'm not mistaken. We can definitely get him probably for some decent prospects. But yeah, I don't know. Is there a team you think we ought to be trading for or eyeing for some of their prospects? Or do you think we ought to just kind of sit back and be like, all right, let's actually retain some of pretty decent talent that we do have, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a yes. Not because I don't like the player that is Dylan Cease. I think he's a good, SB2, SB3 in your rotation. This year, he's probably making, $8.8 $3 to $8.5 million in arbitration. His second to last year with us before he hits free agency. He's a Boris client. We're not going to be matching whatever contract he's asking for if he's still relevant, in a couple of years. So for me, the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking on the value you can get for this guy. Given where the contracts have been for, Aaron Nola, what it might be for other pitchers. I mean, Dylan Cease coming in at $8 million this year is an amazing discount. It's an amazing value. So if you got 2 more years of control of that, man, for any team that needs another playoff starter, I mean, he's for sure up for grabs. Again, like we're talking about, we're not fooled by the 2024 competitive window. 2025 for me is kind of like a best case scenario in terms of like when we'd actually be vying for playoffs. But I think the important thing is kind of looking around and finding those teams. And, I've heard the Orioles, I've heard the Dodgers, based on the amount of prospect depth that they actually have. We could be looking at the Rangers or something like that. But with whatever we get back, we're going to have to get some pitching depth, I think, number one. And then, if they want to throw in like a good offensive player as well, that'd be amazing. I think the Dodgers probably have the upper hand there because they've got guys like Ryan Pepio, Emmett Sheehan. They've got Gavin Stone, Michael Grove. They've got some guys there that could be, depth pieces for us in the future in our rotation. And they've also got some catching depth in their high minors. So the Dodgers seem to make the most sense. They've been in those, those rumor mills and stuff. But I've also heard the Astros are trying to make a play. So we'll just have to see, man. But yeah, if you were asking me, would I trade Dylan Cease? I think this year, whether it's off season or the trade deadline, we're probably going to be moving him.
Yeah, because we can definitely leverage his years, right? His current contract as a way to acquire top level talent, similar to how we were able to get a haul, right, for Chris Sale, right, in the past, or even Quintana. So yeah, utilizing that as leverage, I think makes the most sense. So yeah, I don't think he survives the end of the year. I think we are able to move on from him probably by the trade deadline. In my opinion, I think Getz. I think this Aaron Bummer trade. It seems like he's kind of setting that message a little bit of like, okay, yeah, we're going to try to get younger and get some players that we think could be building blocks or something like that for us in the future. So, and then yeah, Tim Anderson too. Moving on from him. He was kind of like our culture, right, for the past several years, and now he's not going to be part of this club anymore. So yeah, it's going to be a whole new regime. I feel like that he's going to be trying to building off from here. So yeah, don't see him. I don't see Dylan Cease being with the White Sox for too long, and yeah, I have been hearing about the Dodgers. I think. Yeah, they just have a lot of talent. They have a lot of talent, and they need pitching, so it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. How about when we're talking about culture? Because I think the Tim Anderson point's pretty important. I'm actually glad they're moving on. I really hope he finds another home and for himself, like get some success, like go have some new success somewhere else. But I feel like there's some guys who just maybe took advantage of that situation of being, paid and kind of young. Maybe got too much too early and let it get to their heads in some senses. But this clubhouse needs a change. I mean, I guess on that note, I was going to ask you, like, what do you think about Yoan Moncada making $25 million and Eloy making around $14 million this upcoming year? And if you were running the show, I mean, what would you do with one or both of those guys?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't know. I feel like Moncada, he's stayed his length of time, that the maximum length of time that he ought to right now. I think I would move on from Moncada probably as soon as possible. I mean, Eloy hits here and there. Like he's not completely terrible or useless. That being said, he hasn't lived up to I think the hype that we've kind of all expected to as much. Did have that 30 homer season and such, but obviously he's much more of a DH. And it's like, I don't know, for a player that's basically seen just strictly as a DH, hasn't even been that healthy for a DH person. So I don't know. There's just a lot of question marks like that. Just it doesn't make as much sense. So, but Moncada, I would like to see us move on from. For a honestly, I would like to have seen him maybe more so for second base, right? I think, the offensive value that he brings doesn't make sense for third base. But for second base, makes a ton of sense. If he is able to hit, 15, 18 homers, bat 240, 250, great. Do that at second base, right? Slim down a little bit and, be a switch hitter from the second base side, which you've had some experience for, but I get it. He's definitely a wider frame, and they probably want to utilize him on that corner outfield position a little bit more. But yeah, if he were to be in second baseman and kind of trim down there, great. But I just don't think that's going to happen. And then build maybe we do. Maybe I don't know if Colson Montgomery, if he is the long-term answer at shortstop, but would love to have that flexibility, right? It's like, hey, maybe we want to move him to third base, right, and then get like Rosario or something like that on the shortstop side, or another some sort of defensive minded shortstop. I think could make sense there, but something like that, just to give us some flexibility. But I definitely don't see Moncada here for too long. Don't mind Eloy, but Moncada, I feel like, he's just been detrimental to the club. I feel like.
Yeah, no, I think again he's part of that culture, and I think he plays pretty lazy in terms of what he could actually bring to a team, to the game. I think he's still a pretty great defender over there at third base. I think one thing that was, I guess, not really floated out in a lot of the outlets that I've been listening to on the White Sox or baseball in general, but like this idea of maybe attaching his contract to a Cease trade. I mean, maybe you look at a contender and you say, hey, you got 1 year, $25 million for Moncada. You want Dylan Cease. You got to take both in the package. So in return, maybe we take a bad contract too, but in the same sense, like maybe we take a little bit less prospect depth, still getting probably some blue chippers in there, but like in the same sense, like maybe freeing up some of the books there, at least for 1 year, might be interesting if we have another guy in mind. More likely scenario, we just eat it with Yohan at third, hopefully get the most out of him that we can and trade him at the deadline. For Eloy, we got 3 more years of it. I think for me, I've heard his name in the rumor mill. I obviously think he's a much better talent than Yohan, but in the same sense, it's like he's kind of got his own attitude about wanting to play the outfield and consistently being injured and consistently putting up okay numbers, but not over the course of a 162 game season. So we always get, kind of cut short on what he can truly be. But yeah, I mean, if he's on our team, I think that's okay as long as he's willing to play DH permanently. And, if he's not, then, hey, opening up that DH spot to whoever wants to play there and just getting more athletic, maybe turning Eloy into another athlete that can play all over the diamond or in the outfield or wherever you really need him. And then maybe it's Vaughn one day, Gavin Sheets another, maybe it's Moncada here and there, or Robert, whatever you got to do,
Yeah. Are there any players that you think at this point are off the table for trading?
Off the table for me, I mean, no, because I mean, even if it's Robert, like Robert's probably the most sure thing that we have on this team in terms of talent, contract, age, upside, you name it. But even Robert's had some hiccups along the way. He's not been like the Robert we saw in 23 for the last 4 years. I mean, he was great in 2020 in the shortened year in his rookie year, but was kind of injured or, not really living up to his own standards in the prior 2 years. So he's not bulletproof by any means. And like, again, if people are looking at Luis Robert, who's got one of the most desirable contracts of any all-star in the game, man, we could get something incredibly serious for him. I mean, imagine a Cease Robert deal, what that might look like if both those guys were to go in the same package. I mean, we may as well take the Dodgers' entire farm system. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll actually happen, but I don't have any soft spots, man. I mean, if we were winning baseball games and this was the Sox of the 2000s, the early 2000s, I'd have felt like shit if we traded Paul Konerko or Joe Crede or AJ Pierzynski or Scott Podsednik in the day or whatever else it would. Like, I remember the Aaron Rowan trade and feeling like a little hurt, even though we were bringing over Jim Thome. These days, it's like I'm so spiteful towards our team, our organization, that hey man, whatever it's going to take to make us better, and make us a consistent winner, or serious contenders, like sign me up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm almost there. Yeah. I do like Luis Robert and Andrew Vaughn. The rest, I would not be sad or feel bad if they're gone. I did, it was one of those things. It was similar to the whole Jake Berger thing in a way. And I did kind of like the haul that we got from Jake Berger. That being said, I do want to have some continuity, right, of building up players and developing them, obviously with some formidable veterans around them. But I would love to see some carryover from Luis Robert. Like, hopefully he's able to play with the White Sox and maintain, his level of excellence that he had this previous year on, the future, like at least, maybe five or more seasons, right? That would be great. And then he can showcase and mentor, some other players, younger talent as they go on, like, Colson Montgomery or other Cuban players that were able to sign, right? I feel like that would be great to have him, and then have Andrew Vaughn to, because I like the way that Andrew Vaughn plays. At least, is he the perfect player, or is he an all-star like first baseman even? Like not necessarily, it's not right now, but like the way he plays hard, and kind of gives the A-level effort that we do seek for, and I think that's essential. So I don't know, those players I definitely like to keep. Everybody else, yeah, it's we have you for right now, maybe not for the long haul, but we'd love to see if we can build some continuity from here. But yeah, I don't know, I feel like those two players would, like, I like those guys. The rest, to hell. Like, let's just, yeah. If we can get as many of the Dodgers prospects, I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, and totally agree with Andrew Vaughn. I think he gets dogged way too much for where he's at in his own development. I mean, this guy played 0 minor league innings. 0 minor league innings, was brought straight to the majors. I mean, in 3 years, his averaged about 20 homers, 70 RBIs, and is batting .260 with a north of 300 OBP. He's got good pop. I mean, I think this next year is going to be somewhat of a breakout for him, because highly touted hitter out of college. One of the, I think he was crowned the best hitter, in his last year of college. I mean, to me, he was everything that I wanted in that draft pick when we took him. And I just think people need to be a little bit more realistic with him as he's going into his age 26 year, and has honestly put together a pretty, decent sample so far. It's just like, we actually think back and remember to Paul Konerko going through his first few years as a major leaguer, and even some of the really big struggles he had with the White Sox. I mean, we stuck with him. I remember a lot of people were, begrudgingly like, oh, another year Paul Konerko. And then sooner or later, I mean, he's in the 400 home run club, winning a World Series, being everything you want year in, year out as a leader and as a player. So I think Vaughn's going to step into those shoes at some point soon here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I think those two, great. If we can build off, get some continuity. But yeah, Cease, I feel like we can move off from any of the rest of the players. Like, let's see how much we can get from them, I feel like. So
for sure. Well, I think with that, pretty good overview of the Chicago White Sox going into 2024. Wayne, did you want to end it off with any sort of final thought here?
I mean, I'm thinking of like holiday movies, right? And I don't know. I've had a lot of conversations about what constitute a holiday movie or not. I think the biggest question, and there's no right or wrong answer, but maybe there is. Curious, Pat, is Die Hard a holiday movie?
Yeah. I mean, not in the traditional sense of it. I mean, I watched Die Hard, and obviously it's like, the theme of it is like on Christmas Day, all stuff happens, like all the action, everything going on in that high rise, work building and stuff. I enjoyed Die Hard. I thought that was like a lot of fun to watch. And I'll be honest with you, I watched it for the first time maybe 2 years ago or something, but thought it was really enjoyable. And I think it's okay as long as it's, featuring some Christmas elements. Like, it counts as a Christmas movie to me, even if it's not in your face Santa Claus type stuff.
Yeah, I think there's like some. I think Christmas movies they have to have like some sort of like redemption or something like that, or a feel good moment, right? So yeah, amongst the killing and all that, yeah, I think there was some feel good moments in there, and a nice yippee ki or whatever. So I think initially I did not feel like it was, but the more I've talked about it, I've slowly, begrudgingly, like, okay, I can see where you're coming from. Does it make total sense? No, but I'll give it to you. But yeah, I don't know. I've had different conversations about it, and to your point, it's not traditionally a holiday movie, but at the same time, Bruce Willis, some action, like, come on, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, it was a fun one. I'll be honest, I've got a lot of like 80s, 90s action movies that I still haven't seen that I just need to watch all these movies, man. Like, I can't even get in. I mean, Alien, Predator, Lethal Weapons. There's just a lot on my list, man, that I'd like, if you've got more, like, throw them on me. But yeah, I definitely have this big hole in my, action movie list from the old days that every time I watch one too, every time it's like Harrison Ford or, Bruce Willis or any of these guys, it's like, they're all great, man. They're all great. I just don't have the full running list,
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, those are great ones you just mentioned. Any of the lethal weapons. If you want some comedy, like was it like Naked Gun? I think is a fun one too. So
Yeah.
if you wanted a good laugh as well. But yeah, I know. I just thought of that, and yeah, hopefully I'll probably be watching more of that and just writing down some notes. Like, okay, that's a holiday element. That's a holiday element. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, but I'm kind of with you on the seasonal movies. Like I missed all the Halloween flicks that I usually watch with my wife. Like we usually we'll go through like 5 to 10 horror movies leading up to Halloween, which is always like a lot of fun for me. Watch Zero this year. Hopefully it changes a little bit with Christmas because I got some of my favorites I can always, get lined up.
Yeah. What is your go-to horror movie usually on Halloween?
Man, that is tough, man. Oh, man, you just put me on the spot. I mean, I love the Halloween set. I love all those Halloweens. They're all very like cliche at this point, very like formulaic. You kind of know what you're going to get, but I think Michael Myers just put me in a certain spot when I was younger where I was kind of like, all right, this guy he's just, I mean, just like the perfect stalker in any movie. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, we did like the whole Nightmare on Elm Street set. We did all the Saws. I saw watch like 10 of those, Saw movies, which are pretty brutal. And then like just little ones here and there, like The Exorcist, Shining, things like that. So there's a lot of great ones you can get into. The Ring in more recent years, but man, I don't know. You got any favorite like holiday movies for Halloween or Christmas?
Hocus Pocus. Definitely, I watched that thing like at least a dozen times. Hocus Pocus, Prime, Sarah Jessica Parker, and everything too. So definitely go check it out. If you got Disney Plus, it's probably on there. So yeah, always like that. Then yeah, like Halloween Town, that was always a fun one too. A little bit more kiddish, or not as bloody. The bloody ones. The one I liked or I had the best memories of was Scream, actually, because I would watch it with my mom. And my mom would just like would freak out, and I'm like, this is hysterical that she's like, like, oh, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm just a senile teenager who's seen so many people get stabbed or decapitations in my lifetime that I was not affected by it, but to see my mom like almost cry, like it was awesome. So I had nice moments there with watching Scream with her, because it would just be her like, oh, and all that, as like the ghost face person would come out of the closet, right? Like that kind of thing was always fun there.
Oh, totally down for Screams. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah, man, for sure. Left those off the list. One kids movie that now you brought up Hocus Pocus that used to give me the chills when I was a kid watching it is The Witches by Roald Dahl. They adapted it into a couple movies. They've got one from, I believe, the early 90s, and then they made a remake recently with Anne Hathaway, who did
Mm.
actually a pretty good job in it. But when I was a kid, that stuff used to freak me out, man, because like kids playing up in his treehouse and like the witch is walking down the street with purple eyes, and this guy, his grandma, like gave him all the cues to how to look out for a witch and stuff. And man, those witches, they were trying to like turn these kids into rats, you know? So like, I don't know, just like that whole scene like gave me the chills when I was a kid, and I like had to kind of turn it off because I couldn't watch it when I was like 7 or 8 or something. But even as an adult, it like makes me flash back. And man, it's a good movie. Like if you haven't seen The Witches from like the early '90s, man, it's really good.
Yeah. One other movie was Arachnophobia, actually. I mean, I don't like spiders. I probably have a little bit of arachnophobia, but it is just so awesome seeing like a spider that can just kill like with one bite. To this day, I'll sometimes, when I see the slippers, kind of just sitting there out in the open, I'll get a little bit a little bit of a tingle feeling because I think there's a spider in my slippers that's just ready to bite my toe and then poison me to death. So what I sometimes do is I'll step on the top of the slipper, just like, if there was a spider hiding in there, it would just smush the spider. So I've been doing that a little bit, preemptively just to make sure, got to double tap and see if there's a spider in there and make sure that, nothing's there to poison me or, kill me with one bite there. But yeah, Arachnophobia, gotta check it out. Jeff Daniels, not as funny in this movie, but yeah, still pretty good.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah, man. I guess for my final thought, we normally cover food, so I had one ready, just to go here. But man, I've heard about this place before, and it was like the first time that I actually got it last Friday. But just getting out from a workout, and I've been trying to just get more protein and have less filler, whether it's like the bread or sauces or just something like, I don't know, double fried or whatever else. So like after getting this workout done, I went across the street to this big strip mall and actually found a restaurant that I was hearing about and wanting to try out, but it's called Quickway. I don't know if Quickway exists around Chicago, but at least in the DC, Virginia area, there's a lot of them. But it's basically a fast casual for Japanese hibachi, and you basically get 2 to 3 proteins if you want. I got a chicken, beef, double protein bowl with fried rice and mixed vegetables. I mean, this thing was loaded. It was like probably 2 pounds worth of food when I first got it, and I got extra chicken. I got food for me and my wife, and the bill was less than $30 to go. And like I walked out of there, like quality was there. I mean, it was probably just as good as going and sitting down and eating at the flat top. And like when I just thought about it, I was like, man, every time I go get hibachi, it's literally like $100 plus on the ticket, and I just walked away with the same thing for $30 total. And I was like smiling ear to ear, and like this was like hot. It was loaded with meat. Like I didn't get shortchanged whatsoever. Came with the yum yum sauce, soy sauce, all that stuff on the side. Like I got some sriracha in a cup as well there. It was just like just dancing with flavors, man. I was just playing around with some chicken, beef, vegetables, rice. Like it was amazing. So I know we've talked Japanese and we've talked hibachi, but what do you think of all that, man? Like that concept, and then, Quickway, whether or not you have it, or is there some sort of comp in your area?
Yeah, Quickway. I mean, like a nice like quick service hibachi. I'm not too sure. I mean, there probably is. I'm just not aware of it. But I do remember, at least in Seattle, there was a nice lunch spot like underground, in like a downtown Seattle. I forget what it was called exactly, but it was like a Korean. It was like a Korean owned family like buffet area where they basically gave you a box, and if you return the box, you get $1 off or whatever. But you fit in as much material as like Korean food as you can in this little box container of like plasticware, and like it would always be like $10, like 10 to $12 or something like that. But yeah, you just pile on like as much bulgogi or rice or whatever it is you want on there in one box, and then that's it. And yeah, you get $1 off every single time you bring that box again. So yeah, it was nice. It was nice. And hopefully, I don't know if it's still around or not. Obviously, there's been a lot of, downtown restructurings and restaurants kind of just leaving the downtown areas. But that was a nice thing on there. One other, as you were talking about that, it kind of like sparked in me there. If you, I don't know if you've heard of X Pot, but it's like, high end, uh, uh, like high end, I guess, you know, uh, hot pot essentially. But then it also has like
Mm.
Wagyu beef and things like that as well. Like all you can eat type of style, just like in a very obviously like, high end decor. There's some places in Vegas. There's a place in Chicago now. But the idea or concept is you can actually buy memberships. So you can pay like, I think it's not that expensive. Like you can buy a $20 membership. It's kind of like Costco, right? It's like you buy into the $20 membership and you can get like free upgrades on like Wagyu or something. So yeah, like things like that. And it kind of like and I think you get like a free guest or something like on your birthday. Definitely go check out the website. Don't come at me for misinformation or whatever. But yeah, a lot of good, a pretty good deal. I feel like it's like now, I think everybody just likes being part of a membership club or something, whether it's, oh, I have Netflix or I got, they're trying to make your Verizon bill as like a membership, and they're trying to add different, tiers or different things there. Like, oh, let's plug in that Verizon membership and you also get a Disney Plus channel or something like that. Like everything's being piled on, but I don't know. That would be kind of nice. It's like, oh yeah, I know you're paying like your gas bill or something like that with us, but here's a free membership to, this X Pod or this, nice restaurant. And then, yeah, you can get discounts here and there. Right. I think that's the new wave that's coming about is, how can I save some bucks? Maybe I am, but I'll get a membership or yeah, pay $20 here. And now I can do all you can eat. And, I think it's still expensive. It's like $80 all you can eat or whatever. But if you get like some good hot pot or some good like Wagyu, like I think that really goes a far way there.
No, definitely. I mean, everything you're just talking about with, the ability to load up on food at a reasonable price. I mean, give me that, man. Anywhere you want to just give me a like a takeaway carton and I can just fill up whatever I want, however much I want, and not have to spend too much. Like I'm all for that. Sounds pretty awesome. I look for Quickway. There's not one 50 miles around Chicago, but there is one in St. Louis. So if you do happen to go to St. Louis, go check out a Quickway or
get some barbecue. Yeah.
Or whenever you're back in DC, we'll go get some Quickway or something like that. But no, it sounds pretty good. Man, yeah, hungry again here as we kind of near midnight. So I'll try to restrain myself going into the night. But I'd also throw out there that like even in Andersonville around Chicago, when I was obviously living out there in the 2010s and stuff, but a lot of great pho places that just, I mean, really hit the spot for a really good price too. Like just these small mom and pop diners. I felt like in Andersonville, we used to always get pho over there, big bowls in the wintertime and stuff. But yeah, man, no, I'm all about it. Yeah, man, that's pretty much it. So, folks, if you're still with us, subscribe, like, give us some comments on any of the food that you've just heard. I mean, we've obviously covered a ton of baseball, so feel free to rewind back and give us your hot takes in the comment section. Find us on Instagram at Ball and Breakfast, and then also on our podcast channels as well, just for audio. But I guess with Wayne, I'm Patrick, signing off for the Ball and Breakfast podcast.